This story takes place in the fall of 2019. I had just moved into a duplex in rural Pennsylvania, one of those old houses split down the middle, two separate units sharing one roof. The rent was cheap, the neighborhood was quiet, and I needed a fresh start after my divorce. It seemed perfect. I moved in on a Saturday afternoon. The duplex sat at the end of a gravel road surrounded by trees. My side was Unit A. Unit B, the other half, had curtains drawn tight across every window. I noticed an old sedan parked in the driveway, covered in a layer of dust and dead leaves, like it hadn't moved in months. While I was unloading boxes, I heard a door creak open behind me. I turned and saw a man standing in the doorway of Unit B. He was maybe in his 60s, pale, wearing a stained white undershirt and sweatpants. He just stared at me, didn't wave, didn't say hello, just stared. I gave him a polite nod and said, "Hey, I'm Jason. Just moved in." He didn't respond. After a few seconds, he stepped back inside and shut the door. I heard at least 3 locks click into place. I thought maybe he was just antisocial. Lots of people are. I didn't think much of it. That first night, I was unpacking in my bedroom when I heard footsteps. Not from outside, from inside the wall. Slow, deliberate steps, like someone pacing back and forth. I pressed my ear against the shared wall and realized it was coming from his side. He was walking in circles, over and over, for hours. At around 2 a.m., it finally stopped. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing a pattern. Every single night, starting at exactly 11:47 p.m., the pacing would begin. Always the same path, what sounded like from his front door, down a hallway, into a back room, then back again. Over and over until around 2 or 3 a.m. I tried knocking on his door a few times during the day to introduce myself properly, maybe ask if he could keep it down at night. But he never answered. His car never moved. I never saw him leave. Not once. One evening I was taking out the trash when I noticed his mailbox was overflowing. Letters, bills, catalogs, all piling up, some of them weeks old. I pulled a few out, just out of curiosity. They were all addressed to Leonard Marsh. Most of them were past due notices, electric bill, water bill, something from a law office. I thought maybe he was sick or struggling, so I left a note on his door. "Hey Leonard, I'm your neighbor in Unit A. If you ever need anything, just knock. Jason." That night the pacing was louder, more frantic, and for the first time, I heard something else. A low, rhythmic thumping, like someone dragging something heavy across the floor. By the third week, a smell started seeping through the vents. It was faint at first, like rotten food or mildew, but it got worse. Within a few days, it was so strong, I had to leave my windows open, even though it was freezing outside. I called the landlord and told him something was wrong next door. He sighed like he'd heard this before and said he'd look into it, but he never came by. One night around midnight, I heard a door slam. I looked out my window and saw Leonard standing in his driveway, facing the woods. He was barefoot, still in that same undershirt, just staring into the trees. I watched him for maybe 5 minutes. He didn't move, didn't blink. Then he turned around, looked directly at my window and smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was wide, too wide, like his face was being stretched. He walked back inside and I heard all the locks click shut again. I didn't sleep that night. A few days later, I came home from work and saw a police car parked in the driveway. 2 officers were standing outside Unit B, talking to the landlord. I walked over and asked what was going on. The landlord looked pale. He said, "We're doing a wellness check." Someone reported a smell. I told them I'd been smelling it for weeks. One of the officers knocked on Leonard's door. No answer. They knocked again. Louder. Still nothing. Finally, the landlord unlocked it with a master key. The door swung open, and the smell hit like a wall. The officer stepped inside, and I saw his face change. He immediately stepped back out and radioed for backup. I asked what was wrong, but he wouldn't say. The landlord looked like he was going to be sick. Later that night, after the police had left and the unit was sealed off with yellow tape, I found out what they'd discovered. Leonard Marsh had been dead for at least 2 months. He was found in the back bedroom, decomposed, sitting upright in a chair facing the wall. The coroner said he'd likely died of a heart attack, alone, in that chair. But here's the thing that still keeps me up at night. The footsteps I'd been hearing, the pacing, the dragging sounds. They didn't stop until the day the police opened that door. I should have left right then, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. If Leonard had been dead for 2 months, what the hell had I been hearing? A week after the police cleared out, I went into Unit B. The door was still unlocked. I know I shouldn't have, but I had to see it for myself. The inside was worse than I imagined. Trash piled in corners, newspapers stacked to the ceiling. The walls were covered in pencil markings, tally marks, hundreds of them, scratched into the paint. I walked to the back bedroom where they'd found him. The chair was still there, and on the wall in front of it, written over and over in pencil, was the same sentence. She's still in the walls. She's still in the walls. She's still in the walls. I felt my skin crawl. I turned to leave, and that's when I heard it, a faint scratching sound, coming from inside the wall. I ran. I moved out 2 days later. Didn't even pack everything. Just grabbed what I could and left. I never went back. A few months ago, I looked up the property records online. Turns out, before Leonard Marsh lived there, the duplex belonged to a married couple. In 2003, the wife, Catherine Marsh, disappeared. She was reported missing, but no body was ever found. Leonard claimed she left him. The case went cold, but Leonard never moved. He stayed in that house for 16 years, alone, pacing, listening. I don't know what he heard in those walls, but I know what I heard, and I know he heard it too.